Start by setting positive motivation so we can reflect on the fact that for these sessions, we're focusing on meditations on impermanence and death on Thursdays and bodhicitta on Mondays in order to follow Khandrola's advice, who was really just pointing out that Lama Zopa constantly advised people to try to get Lamrim realizations. And in a way, we can reflect on how they say the Buddha's last teaching was impermanence by showing the aspect of passing away, and we can say that was also Lama Zopa Rinpoche's last teaching. So we're here to fulfill the Guru's advice. And in so doing, we are participating in helping to create the causes and the conditions for a world that's ready for Lama Zopa Rinpoche's return. The Guru appears in the places where they can make a difference, where they can lead disciples. So we are practicing the obligations of a disciple and trying to fulfill his advice. In a way, we are reaching out with our karma, trying to create that connection. All right. So Khandrula, particularly her phrasing or her advice on meditation was, she particularly said impermanence and bodhicitta in the context of the Lamrim. So not just kind of a more general presentation, but particularly using specifically the Lamrim and the wisdom contained in the Lamrim as it relates. And that's, of course, always important too, to make sure that we're actually following in the footsteps of the Buddha, that we aren't, as Lama Yeshe might say, just following our own trip, that we're actually replicating the insights of the Buddha. So I thought for the first meditation today, we would look at a couple of maybe the disadvantages of not remembering death. And then the second meditation will be that second major point of the 9-point death meditation. The second major point being that the time of our death is uncertain. As last week we looked at the first major point, that death is certain. And the second major point is the time of death is uncertain or indefinite. So that's kind of the roadmap for today. So let's get comfortable, adopt a stable, comfortable, upright position. Thinking about having our feet flat and our back straight, torso open, hands in the lap, right over left with the palms upturned and the thumbs gently touching. Our eyes are gently closed or slightly open, making sure that we let in enough light to remain alert. We try to avoid slouching or leaning. We also let go of any unnecessary tension in the body, relaxing into a stable, comfortable, upright position. And try to begin to pull back from attending to your external environment, constraining your awareness to the body and mind, concentrating that awareness in the present by attending closely to the physical sensation of the air moving into and back out of the tip of the nostrils. Noticing quickly when anything other than that one physical sensation is arising in the mind, and without judgment or frustration, lifting your awareness up from that distraction and placing it gently but firmly again and again on the breath. And then when the mind feels more calm, take a moment to reassert your motivation. And then we'll begin investigating the teachings in the middle length Lamrim as they relate to the disadvantages of not cultivating a sustained recollection or mindfulness on one's own mortality. Lama Tsongkhapa writes, although we all have the thought that at the end of our lives uh, will come our death, each day we think, I will not die today, and today too, I will not die. In this way, right up to when we are about to die, our mind holds on to the idea that we are not going to die. Although we all have the thought that at the end of our life will come our death, each day we think, I will not die today, and today too, I will not die. In this way, right up to when we are about to die, our mind holds on to the idea that we are not going to die. He says, if you do not take to heart an antidote to this, if your mind is obscured by such an idea, and you think that you will remain in this life, then you will keep thinking about ways of achieving happiness and eliminating suffering in this life only, thinking, I need such and such. A mind analyzing meaningful goals, such as future lives, liberation, and omniscience, will not arise. Thus, no opportunity will be created for engaging in Dharma. So we can try to focus our attention on what Lama Tsongkhapa here is saying in the middle length Lamrim, that intellectually we say to people that we know that our lives will come to an end, but every single day that we wake up, live that day, we cling to a false view of permanence, the view that our death is abstract and only ever in the future, which leads to thinking only about completing projects, obtaining things that are pleasurable to the senses, trying to be separated from what we find unpleasant. These completely preoccupy the mind, making it very difficult for sustained practice, consistent, deep spiritual practice. So just try to reflect in your own experience. How do you see that operating in your own life? To what degree do you accept that you cling to that false view of permanence? And is it having any negative implications? Just investigate in your own direct experience. And then the next disadvantage of not cultivating sustained recollection of one's mortality is explained when Lama Tsongkhapa says, even if you engage in hearing, thinking, and meditating for 100 years, whatever virtue you do have, whatever virtue you do will have little power because it is done for the sake of this life alone. Since you will engage in them in conjunction with faulty behavior, bad actions, and downfalls, it will be rare for them not to be mixed with the causes of lower rebirths. So this quotation is addressing the purity or impurity of our practice, those preoccupations that we addressed in the first point also have the power to get involved in our motivation for spiritual practice. We might use our practice only to increase our comfort, or even to increase our status, our reputation, our wealth, because it wouldn't be done purely for the purpose of accomplishing good future rebirths. Due to the force of that faulty view of permanence, preventing us from really deeply integrating our understanding of our mortality and what comes next. So try to think again in your own experience. What motivates your spiritual practice, and are there times when the motivation is more worldly, more directed at hoping that this life goes more smoothly, is more calm or peaceful, rather than directing it toward creating the causes and the conditions of a succession of perfect human rebirths out into the future so that we can complete our training and arise as enlightened beings. Just investigate in your own experiences whether these are issues that are coming up. And then think that if you have noticed any issues things that you feel need to be addressed, and make a strong determination to investigate and uncover the antidotes, the method of sustaining recollection, mindfulness of death. And try to rest your mind in that determination. And correct any mistaken actions or thoughts. And then when you're ready, we'll come back together. So we can take a couple of minute break here in between the two sessions. Are there any thoughts or questions that anyone? We will come back. So if you need to settle back down into reviewing meditation posture, just once again take a stable, comfortable, upright position. And just for a moment, we will settle the mind by concentrating again on the breath, setting aside the arising of anything other than the physical sensation of the air moving into and back out of the tip of the nostrils. Distractions will arise unbidden in the mind, but our job is simply to notice quickly and return our attention again and again to the breath. And then we will engage in a contemplation of that second major topic of the 9 point death meditation, recognizing that the meditation as a whole is one of the principal vehicles for generating that sustained mindfulness of death, which will overcome those disadvantages that we previously considered. So, the second major contemplation is that the time of our death is completely uncertain. Lama Tsongkhapa writes, "It is certain that death will come sometime between now and 100 years from now, and within that period it is not certain on which day it will be. Therefore, on any day like today, you cannot be certain that you will or will not die. Even so, your mind should be biased toward the idea of death, and you should generate the awareness that thinks, I will die today. For if the mind is biased toward the idea of not dying, giving rise to the thought, I will not die today, then you will constantly prepare for continuing in this life and neglect preparing for future lives. Owing to this, if you are seized by the Lord of Death, in the meantime you will have to die in anguish. But if you prepare to die every day, you will accomplish much that is meaningful for the future. So that even if you do not die, it is good to have done those things. And if you do die, it was all the more necessary." So that contemplation is in a way, a precursor to the sub points. But we can reflect on the utility of Lama Tsongkhapa's advice, giving us a specific technique to make every day meaningful. Using that technique, every day that we do not die, we've been able to create vast benefit, progress meaningfully on the path. So just contemplate that technique. Analyze your thoughts, your reactions, and see if there's a way in which you might work with it. And then the first specific subpoint of this topic is that in our realm, in this world, humans do not have a fixed lifespan. So Lama Tsongkhapa explains that there are many places within reality where the lifespan is relatively fixed, that the beings there are able to count on a specific number of, we could say, years as a way of thinking. But this does not characterize the kind of life that we presently have. There is no guarantee of any amount of time. We can certainly recollect that there are infants who pass away, young children, adolescents, teenagers, college students, people in young adulthood. Lama Tsongkhapa writes, you should take to heart the fact that your gurus, friends, and so forth have died from sudden internal or external causes of death before reaching the limit of their lifespans. Think over and over again, I too am subject to this. So we can say that there is a karmically established upper limit to a given lifespan, but there's no guarantee of remaining in a lifespan on this world system for any length of time. And it's extremely common that people, as Lama Tsongkhapa says, due to internal or external causes, die before reaching that upper limit. And I too am subject to this. So bring to mind whatever examples you find helpful in demonstrating that point to yourself. And then the next contemplation is that the causes of death are many and the causes of life are few. So here we can bring to mind all of the viruses, the bacteria that constantly threaten our lives. You can bring to mind the forces of nature that give rise to powerful, damaging storms, earthquakes, fires. You can think of how much violence there is in the world. Lama Tsongkhapa quotes Nagarjuna, who writes, "We live amid the conditions that cause death, like a butter lamp in a tumultuous gale." So again, bring to mind whatever examples along these lines you find compelling. To overcome the false view that even though we have woken up every day in this life and we can't remember anything other than this life, that gives rise to a false impression that this life will always continue. But we're constantly surrounded by threats. Even the food that we eat, the water that we drink, the medicines that we take, the things that we think support our life can be contaminated, can be the cause of our death. And contemplate until a strong recognition of the truth of that arises in the mind. And the third and final contemplation is that the body is extremely vulnerable, which gives rise to uncertainty about the time of our death. Lama Tsongkhapa writes, "The body is as vulnerable as a water bubble. Therefore, any little thing, such as a thorn piercing it, may be responsible for destroying life without the need for major harm. In this way, it very easily succumbs to all the causes of death." So here we contemplate the fragility of the body. Again, how a virus or a bacteria that's millions of times smaller than the body can be the cause of our death within even just a couple of days. Or how a single stab wound, a bullet wound, or a car crash can take our life at any time. Our body is not armored in any way. Bring to mind whatever examples are helpful for you, in demonstrating the fragility of the body. And then think that the outcome of these contemplations is a resolution to engage in spiritual practice right now. The first contemplation from last week, the outcome was, I must practice spirituality. Now the outcome is, I must practice spirituality right now. There's no time to wait. Try to see if you can give rise to that strong determination and rest your mind single pointedly in it. And then when you are ready, we'll come back together. So we'll end with the swift return prayers for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, the one written by His Holiness and the one written by Kondrila. So I will attempt to screen share those. I don't know. Not sure if that worked. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Prajeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. And then the one written by Kondrila. Guru, think of me. Guru, consider me. Gracious Guru, care for me. Root Guru, most gracious and kind, do not deprive us of your compassionate refuge. Listen and consider this heartfelt prayer made by a tormented disciple. Guru, you embody the blessings of the Buddhas of the three times. You may rest in great bliss, equipoise within the dhatu of unimpeded luminosity, yet the playful dance of your loving compassion can emanate in myriad ways. The swift appearance of your magical wisdom, the Rupakaya. The time has come for you to care for us once again with your affectionate compassion. I invoke you, I call upon you, I implore you on behalf of all beings. Arise, arise, arise from the from the Dharmakaya. Do not rest in Kichara or other pure celestial realms. Rather, to benefit the Buddhist teachings in all living beings, swiftly return to this southern continent to spread the Buddha Dharma of study and realization. Quickly return to guide us poor, wretched beings. Such is the desperate cry of us, your disciples. Return so that we may actually behold your presence and receive the blessings of your enlightened body, speech, and mind. All violations, errors, mistakes, and broken samaya that we have made in relation to your spontaneously present, awakened body, speech, mind, and activity, through our being baffled, confused, and conceiving things in erroneous ways, we confess within the luminous emptiness of your three kayas. Of everything auspicious, the supreme auspiciousness, may there be the auspiciousness of emptiness and compassion conjoined, and the auspiciousness of a timely meeting between master and disciples. Through the force of the truth of unchanging suchness, may the unmistaken incarnation return quickly. This lament was made by me, a Dakini with pure faith and samaya, her eyes filled with tears of sorrow. May these wishes of a beggar woman be fulfilled through the blessings of the deities of the three roots. Perception, its object in the act of perceiving, all dissolve within the expanse. the blissful clarity of suchness. Ah.
Thank you, Venerable.
And then the last thing to just mention is we have word that center member Israel Ser is critically ill and potentially near death. So if we could also just take a moment to dedicate for him, and perhaps we can recite some medicine Buddha mantras. Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Rajat Samo Gate Soha. Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Rajat Samo Gate Soha. Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Rajat Samo Gate Soha. Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Rajat Samo Gate Soha. Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Rajat Samo Gate Soha. Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Rajut Samokate 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 Soha. Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Rajut Samokate Soha. Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Rajut Samokate Soha. Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Tayetu Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Rajut Samokate Soha. 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 Tayata Om Bekensi Maha Bekensi Raza Samogate Soha. And then just very strongly request for healing, if it's possible for him to recover. Pray that he recover. If it's not possible for him to recover, pray that he swiftly achieves another perfect human rebirth, meets with perfect Mahayana gurus, continues training, swiftly accomplishes the path, and arises without delay in the state of full enlightenment. Thank you.